centerpiece of my scholarly work. But I hope with this book, A Monk's Alphabet, I hope that I have produced here not so much a piece of theological scholarship, but I'm hoping it's literature and poetry. So I want you to think of this evening's time together not as a theological lecture, but as poetry being read by the poet, literature by the literature. So put on, get your poetic juices flowing, get your mystical juices flowing, put on your literary caps. A monk's day is very regular. Prayer always at the same time and structured in the same way. Reading and work at the appointed intervals. Meals at the customary hour and always taken at the assigned place in the refectory. A predictable diet. Always to bed at this hour. Always rising from sleep at that hour. The architectural arrangement of the monastery underlines the regularity of these monastic practices. I've been living in my monastery since 1973. Not much has changed in the way I pass my days. This terrifying regularity is not meant to drive a person mad, though it has been known to do so. It is not even meant primarily as a form of asceticism, though it does require a certain sense of discipline. It is not a repudiation of variety as the spice of life, though at first it can appear flavorless. Rather, it is designed to set the monk on a different level of being, and generally it accomplishes just that. Once used to the exterior routine, the monk is free to live much more readily attuned to an interior life, to a realm in which the life of the mind and the spirit holds sway. Only this can make the monastic life interesting. However boring or exotic its exterior forms may appear at first glance to those who do not practice them, the exotic dimension quickly disappears for those who carry them out day after day. And yet even these dimensions retain a kind of aura for practitioner and observer alike, precisely because they are the concrete forms through which one passes back and forth from one level of life to the other. With this book, I want to testify, no, not for me, it isn't. With this book, I want to share some of my life, not because there's anything especially interesting about me, but because the life of the mind and the spirit is interesting. I feel the privilege of being able to live in such a way, and I want to bear witness to it. Airplane. The winter night is cold and clear. I finish singing Compline with my monastic community and step out into the garden where, far from city lights, I look up to the sky and see the million stars. Verses from the Psalms still move in me. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High, the Lord who made heaven and earth, I will lie down in peace. In the stars I see moving fast among them a jet plane, and think with affection of its cargo of passengers. I am able to imagine from my own flying how different the same moment is for them, different from my quiet monastic garden. They speed along somewhere, probably a little cramped and uncomfortable, and yet for all that, what they are doing is amazing. They travel at great speed to a desired faraway destination, and given the circumstances, there is relative comfort. The terrible cold is shut out, as well as the night. They can listen to music, watch a movie, drink wines from another continent, do remarkable calculations and other work on their computers. As a Benedictine monk, I live a tradition that is 1,500 years old. But I'm not living in another time different from my own. This is my century, too. I travel in planes, see the movies, use a computer. And this makes me think about how I think. The monastic environment, in fact, offers unique advantages for thinking in a particular way. This environment and these advantages are certainly linked to a tradition, indeed to a very old one. And yet, at the same time, the one thinking, in this case me, is also a product of and player in his own times. That is, he is involved in the kind of world of which jet travel may serve as an emblem. So like any other person living in our times, the monk is a potential partner and player in a cultural dialogue. He is not disqualified by the ancient traditions to which he adheres. In this fact, among other things, we have in monastic life a clear example of how any tradition works. Traditions are not lived for their own sake. They are valued and lived when they are thought to contain a wisdom still useful for our present and future. I am willing to live according to the 1500-year-old rule of Benedict because I believe it contains a wisdom useful not only for me, but for my companions, my race, with whom I live this present period of human history.